One thing I don't do very often on this channel is talk about some of my personal experiences, the actual things that I've gone through in life. But I'm going to tell you this. Years ago, on one of my affirmations that I was reading out, I felt it. Well, I'm going to preface by saying I felt it in my body that something was off. I felt that there was an imbalance in my posture, in my balance, and I'm so grateful to the fact that I was able to articulate this desire in a way that took my mind off of the imbalance and the angst and like the physical ailment that I thought I had, at least the thought that I had and or thought I had. That's irrelevant, right? Because it still manifested as in my experience as something that I was struggling to get past. And what I'm really grateful for is the fact that I was able to create a desire out of this that shed light on how I would like to feel, who I would like to be. And I wrote it in my affirmations in many different ways, but one of them notably was in just the word symmetry. And I wanted, at the end of one of my affirmations, I would list out just words that I wanted to feel, energetic states that I wanted to align myself with, such as love, confidence, romance, beauty, symmetry, etc. Insert, right? Like insert all of the above, just things like that, right? And one of them was symmetry. And I remember thinking, like, as I would read these words aloud, my mind had no choice but to think of the essence of what these words were and what they meant. And doing this every morning and every night, especially every night when I was at the end of a terrible, at the end of a shift that working at a job that I absolutely hated, and I wanted to get through this period of my life so bad. This was my solace, was to go into my car, go somewhere far away from home, and into an empty, dark parking lot, and able to just read to myself the life and the life that I want to live. And it wasn't pictured or written out in the form of I live in Florida Beach or in Florida in Tampa Bay in a $300,000 home with the house number 3031. It wasn't like that. And I'm not saying that doesn't work or anything like that. I'm just telling you what my experience was. I did it in the way of words, and words that unlocked within me the feeling of the essence back of them, of what these words meant. I was wanting to feel what they meant, what they were, what they represented. I was going to embody it. And I did my best every time to put myself in the proper mindset to embody what I was saying. This was fact. Everything I was saying in my mind was to be fact and factual and true. And so that included when I would talk about symmetry and things like that. And that's why I would talk about symmetry. That's why I had that desire, is because I had currently at that time the experience of asymmetry, of tension in my body, of not having full control of my body. And I wanted that, and I wanted everything that came with it. And so it seems like a small thing, but hey, everyone has their own desires, and this was one of mine. And flash forward years later, you would think that it would just happen magically, that your body would just kind of rearrange itself. And in some ways that does happen with many things. And I think it could have happened like that as well if I gave it enough time. But what ends up happening is you make something so important to you that even in your waking hours, when you're just going about your day, you find opportunities. Your mind finds opportunities and solutions to make that desire happen, to make that desire come true in the physical. And that only happens when you think it's possible. And that's why we talk about supposing that something would be a possibility for yourself, just as an entertainment factor of, the opposite side of worrying about something that something bad happening. You can also worry that something good could happen. And you do it in the same way by supposing that something could happen. Suppose that I was symmetrical. Suppose that my body didn't have tension in weird areas and I felt completely good. I suppose that is a possibility, isn't it? And then the more you start, smoldering and smeltering in that essence, in sautéing in that feeling and that thought, the more you start to align your identity with it, because you're thinking of it and thoughts become things. including you. You become what you think about. And so and I've made considerable progress towards this goal. I think I'm basically there. But this is what I want to say is it didn't happen magically, although from the outside looking in, it might look like magic. And in some ways, you could say that it is kind of like magic, because you can use, it's just the essence of using your words and using what God already gave you to create miracles for yourself. And this is what happened. I tried many different things to correct my posture, to align myself physically and mentally. And so I went to chiropractors. I went to what's called the PRI specialist, which is a postural restoration specialist. And both of them helped, but they helped in the way of providing me insight as to what else could be going on, as to the mechanism that was really happening within my body. I was basically ruling things out and saying, okay, I've mastered this, or I've tried this, and I see why and how it will not work, why it's not fixing the symptom, or not fixing the cause, but only treating the symptom. And between PRI, postural restoration therapy, and chiropractic, for me, for what I was going through, PRI was way better because it treated the cause. It was fixing your gait, the way that you walk, and just the overall mechanics of your body, so that you could, over time, gradually, naturally perfect your gait, correct the way that your body moves, so that you can feel less tension, and basically overall, eventually, remolding the fascia that holds everything together inside of your body. But without going into too much science, what ended up making the biggest difference for me was researching first and seeing how all of the symptoms of what I was going through aligned almost basically, yes, perfectly with the treatment of what would eventually be a tongue tie frenectomy. Now, I never had a super tight tongue tie. Some people have super tight tongue ties where their tongue barely moves and they have a really noticeable lisp. Mine wasn't like that, but I saw a deficiency in my tongue mobility. And I saw how if I was going to focus on the proper posture, I needed to correct it where it mattered most, which was going to be inside of my skull. And knowing that the tongue was the muscle that was going to restructure that for me, I had to get really good at mewing. So I tried mewing a lot, and I stressed myself out doing it because the fascia that I had grown up with, which was weak and ill, and not ill, but not used correctly for all my life, it was too weak for me to sustain that kind of tongue posture. And all it did was cause me more tension. And I saw that there was a weakness there, and I researched more and more, and I saw, people get tongue frenectomies done. People get that little tight string that attaches your tongue to the floor of your mouth. They can have that flesh, basically. It's not even flesh. It's more like a webby gum-like structure that when it's really tight, which is part of your fascia, it can be clipped, it can be snipped so that it's not so tight, and it re-heals, it heals itself back, but it re-heals in a way that now you have more tongue mobility, and you can mew better, and you can breathe better, and you can sleep better because of all of those reasons. And that has made the biggest difference for me. And so my point with all of this is saying that I first created the idea in my mind that symmetry was possible for me, that not having this ailment was possible for me. And with that, I researched and looked for solutions, and I never stopped until I found the one that worked, the one that made the biggest difference. I remember one thing, there was something that happened that was the turning point, I should say. It's the thing that changed everything for me. Before I got the tongue tie done, before I had any research or any know-how about whatever that was, before I even knew about mewing, I made a decision one day. It clicked in my head that I was going to find the solution this year. Not this year, but the year that I had the solution. I remember I'd taken a break from the gym. I wasn't even going to the gym. I wasn't squatting. I wasn't putting any kind of too much pressure on my back. I was doing at-home exercises and stretches to strengthen the ligaments and the back muscles and the rhomboids so that I could have the strength to fix my posture in that way, to no avail. It was helping, but it was not the cause. It wasn't deep enough. I wasn't treating the cause deep enough. And so finally I got sick. I got, not literally sick, but I got so tired of going through the rigmarole of it, of just like constantly torturing myself into like basically trying to fix myself, which I believe a lot of young men go through. I was trying to fix myself desperately, that I finally said, enough is enough. Enough is enough. And I decided in my head that it's like an identity trick that happened. I identified with the version of me that existed at the end of the year, that would have at least the solution, that would know what it is that is happening. What is it that's causing me all of this stress and this anxiety? What is it? I'm going to find that solution. It is final. That is decided. And I remember feeling it so clear as day, because first of all, my body felt like an inkling of what that life felt like, to feel in my body like that person would. And that told me everything I needed to know. I was like, okay, I can feel like this. This is possible for me. Even if just this moment, I can see that it's possible for me. Therefore, I can recreate this moment to be an ongoing experience for me 24/7. Why not? Why not me? And so that was my first clue that it was going to happen. And then I think just right after that, I said, it was an energy. It wasn't a conscious conversation with myself. It was like something clicked in my mind, a belief and the belief was, by the end of this year, you will have the solution. And I could relax because I knew it was going to happen, and it did. And guys, that's how powerful your words are. That's how powerful your thoughts are, that when you put them into consistent action, you reproduce them into physical form. And you can't underestimate the power of this. You cannot underestimate the power of this. I've seen miracles happen. I've made them happen through the power that God has given us all to use. And that's the power of your mind. It's the power of your nervous system. It's all linked. But anything you desire, when you remind yourself constantly of it, in the spirit of achievement, in the spirit of attainment, of it's already happened, as in the spirit of I have it now because I am that person. I am someone who does X, someone who has X, someone who is X, insert whatever it is that you desire. And you just wake up early in the morning and you repeat this to yourself. Yeah, you either whisper it, you say it out loud, or you say it in your head. But the consistency and the repetition is what's going to get you past that. It's going to get you over that lip of feeling like this is such a dream and such an unattainable goal. It's going to get you over that hump into the area that's going to see all of the possibilities of why it could happen, right? All of why it could happen, and then why it would happen, and then finally why it will happen. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day. Peace.